Now, when two NASA astronauts blasted off on the Boeing Starliner, they were supposed to be back here on planet Earth around 10 days later. But almost 1 month on, the duo are still at the International Space Station, and no date has been set for their return. This because of a litany of technical problems. To tell us more, Julia Seeger, our science editor, is with me. So, Julia, let's talk about this then. First of all, about the Starliner mission itself and the problems they're apparently having now.
So the Starliner indeed is a capsule that can dock with the International Space Station and set to become a sort of a space taxi, if you will, to bring astronauts up there into the ISS. Now, back in 2014, NASA actually ordered 2 of those vehicles, both to Boeing and SpaceX. And the idea was to be able to really alternate flights between both companies. Now, SpaceX, as usual, delivered very quickly with the Crew Dragon. It's been operational for 4 years now. But Boeing's program fell behind in a big way. And finally, on June 5th, indeed, the Starliner was able to take off from Florida. The goal of this first mission was really to demonstrate that this vehicle created by Boeing was safe and was capable of bringing the astronauts up there. On board, you have 2 astronauts, Butch Wilmore and Suri Williams. The test was indeed supposed to last about a week. And it has been extended due to a slow helium leak in the spacecraft propulsion system. Now, NASA and Boeing actually knew about this leak before takeoff, but for some reason, I don't know how, but they initially believed it wouldn't affect the test mission and the astronaut safety. However, once in orbit, they found 4 more other leaks. Now, helium is carried in those vehicles in space because it can pressurize the fuel, which is very heavy, so it's quite important. Now, in addition to the helium leaks, the 5 of the 28 rockets that are also on board seem to be malfunctioning, and that had an incidence on the docking with the ISS because they had to do it manually rather than on autopilot as it was initially planned.
And we don't know actually when either of them are going to be able to come back here to planet Earth.
That's right. It sounds quite incredible.
Yeah.
But since June 6th, they've already changed twice the date of their return to Earth. So at first, NASA said they could return by the end of by mid-July. But then later, NASA's program boss, Steve Stitch, said that he was verifying that Starliner's batteries could have a little bit more autonomy and perhaps 3 months autonomy.
Wow.
And this is what prompted people to think that, NASA wasn't ruling out the return by the end of August. Now, the other question is whether they'll have enough helium, of course. Boeing says that they have 10 times what they actually need. And in reality, we're waiting for the results of the test that they're now running in the Boeing labs in White Sands, New Mexico, because what they're saying is that they actually need more time. They need to run those tests while the vehicle is still in space because the rockets are embedded in these sort of service modules that will disintegrate once they re-enter atmosphere. So this is why they say that they need more time to review the data.
Okay, but while they work this out, are the astronauts themselves at risk?
I think it's a very good question. For now, NASA and Boeing says there's absolutely no issue here. But during the press conference, many journalists, of course, were quite skeptical of this. And the reason why is because they say that, the space division of Boeing it can't be completely isolated from the rest of its commercial activities and mainly linked to all of the problems it's had with its airliners, specifically very recently the loss of a door in mid-flight. So, of course, that irritated Boeing. But Mark Nappy wants to be reassuring. He said that he can indeed bring them back safely and he can do so at any time.
All right, Julia Seeger, thanks very much indeed.